Okay, so preparation time has expired. Hello and congratulations for making it into the quarterfinals of Momiji Cup 2019. And getting right into the debate, the motion for this round is this House will hold head of religious organizations legally liable and believers for religious reasons deny giving medical treatment to their children under life-threatening conditions. Firstly, calling upon Prime Minister to open the debate within 7 minutes. Hear, hear.
In the status quo, some parents are prioritizing their freedom of religious over the children's fundamental right to live, and I don't think this situation is good. I believe that it is head of a religious organization that is creating this situation, and that's why we think that we should accuse those head of religious organization in this kind of situation, and that's why we're very proud to propose this motion. I'm going to talk about 4 things in my speech. First of all, I'd like to set up a model, and secondly, I'd like to talk about why in the status quo parents prioritize their religious belief over children's right to live, and why it is bad. And thirdly, I'd like to explain that why we are going to hold head of religious organization legally liable, not their children's parents. And fourthly, I'd like to explain our after plan. So first of all, our model is that, in the motion we were talking about situation where the believer or for example a Jehovah's Witness refused to blood transfusion for their children, and if the parents refuse to do those kind of thing, we would ask them to come to the court or to the penalty of imprisoned or ask for to pay a fine or those kind of thing, and that was our model. And secondly, I'd like to talk about in the status quo. So in the status quo, some conservative the religious parents deny those life-threatening to treat to their children in life-threatening situation because some people think those kind of treatment is go against the will of their God, and even if in the status quo it is scientifically proved that this treatment is effective and it could actually save their children, but the parents cannot believe that it is a good thing to do for their children because it contradicts to their religious beliefs. And the reason why those things happen is because their life is based on those religious beliefs, and how they think and how they're going to act in the life is all based on those religious beliefs. And also there is echo chamber that those parents some live in those community where a lot of people believe in those same religious beliefs, so they tend to believe that what they believe thing is the most good things or this kind of thing, and that's why it is hard for them to go against the will of the God, and why they're going to force their children to follow the will of God is because parents care about their children, and parents think that it is the best decision for their children, and they also afraid that if the children go against those will of God, they might be excluded from those community, or they get like discrimination from the like surrounding people. So that's why parents force them children to to follow the will of God. And why it is bad? Because children or just happen to be born in the society where like the parents live in like a certain religious belief, and the community are also believing like the same belief. And children have no choice but to listen to their parents and to believe what that God is saying, because they are immature, they don't have enough experience, they don't have enough knowledge to like select what they want to believe. No, thank you. So like they have no choice but to believe what the parents are saying. And I think it's like because of like the religious belief that the parents have, like the children's like right to live could be like could be like hinders in this kind of situation. But no, thank you. We think like we must like protect children's right to live more than like the parents' freedom of religious belief, because we think that the right to live is like a fundamental right for every single individual. Because if you don't have like the right to live, you cannot have like the religious freedom of religious belief or like those kind of other rights either. You need to like survive and you need to live first in order to like enjoy like other kind of rights. So we think we need to protect those children's right to live, but we think like the reason why parents parents prioritize those own like religious belief over like the children's religious belief is not the parents' responsibility, but because it is the responsibility of like the head of religious organization. And that's what I'm going to talk about in this in like the third argument. But before I'm moving on, yes, I take opening.
Oh no.
No. So what it is like the responsibility of like the head of religious organization is because it is like those head of religious organization that spread those doctrine and that doesn't like change their doctrine. Even in the status quo, it is already proven that like, this treatment is effective and it could save those children's life. Because like maybe in the past, like this treatment was believed that it is not going to be effective and it doesn't help their children. But we already know that it is scientifically proved that it is effective. And we think why we don't like accuse parents is because parents were also once they were a child, and parents were also like in some kind of way like forced to like believe in those religious beliefs because of like the situation that they were going, and because of like this social structure that head of religious free organization created is actually going to creating this cycle. And so we don't think we should like accuse those parents because we believe that the parents were also once child. So it is like head of religious organization that should be accused because they are the people who created those social structure to like spread those like doctrine and create those like echo chamber. So that's why we're very proud to propose this motion.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Next, we call upon Leader of Opposition to open O's case within 7 minutes. Hear, hear.
最後につながっていって20年机のしているもののあれ頑張ってくれるのかそこだけ言ってくれる。
children, given the children right to live this is a harmful situation or discussion. However, they have never explained why such making a situation legally liable, why this is suddenly related to helping the children. And so we say such the crime eligibility is low, and even if the successful case is rather counterproductive in long term. So and also this is the principle, but so eventually we are happy to oppose. So all the matter is integrated in my speech. So from leader of opposition, I have three things to talk about. First of all, so why as a government shouldn't do that in terms of freedom of religion. And second of all, why it is push a responsibility toward head of religious organization is why it is unjust. And third of all, why such the plan is really feasibility is really low, why it is meaningless, and even successful cases why it is counterproductive to our children. Let me explain one by one. First of all, why as a government they should that because of they guarantee the freedom of religion. So that's why the religious organization will be created, or the Bible or idea will be created in the Constitution. Why it is related to intervene to the freedom of religion? So because such right to criminalize or push legal liability towards their act, their behavior fundamentally based on their ideology, their such a fundamental thought of religion, right? So because, for example, they in the case of the Jehovah's Witness, such verbal transfusion cases, so this is really one of the ideology of the believer, because such the thought between the Bible or really fundamental thought fundamental of the believers and also the religious organization. So if the government started to push legal liability, this means that given really it means the intervention toward the government. However, under French government guaranteed the freedom of religion. However, this situation is against such a situation is principle. So why freedom of religion is really important? So simply this is provides to mental stability or core identity to believers individual, right? So simply some believers by believing such kind of the ideology or engaging in this organization, they have really the happiness life without crashing. So such freedom is really important, and the government should not against that. Second argument, why is such pushing responsibility to head of legal organization, why it is unjust? Two reasons here. So in the first place, such the choice is the choice of believers individual head of the leader of not related to the believer individual choice, right? Two reasons here. First of all, simply so in the first place is the leader don't forces believers into even entering this organization. It is not forced choices by leader. It is believers individual choice. So that's why that even entering this organization or believe such kind of thought or make some act based on such ideology, all kinds of things. Believer choice, individual choice is really this independent choice from the leader. So leaders don't have responsibility towards believers individual. Second reason, such the decision to not give the medical treatment to our children is conducted after the considering by the parents. Considered by parents, so there is no reason to intervene. So open government told you this is parents prioritize the religion, this is about those kinds. However, this is not true because the parents make the comparison which is important to their children or their religion or those kinds of things. So in order to explain that, I want to provide a parent's character, especially those who make such a decision to their year. First, of course, they have really care about their children because so they have much more incentive to care about children or hear the opinion to the children, or they have much more incentive to help children or allow them to live longer or those kinds of things. For example, in the case of Christianity, the abortion is banned. So this is fundamental reason is their such life in itself is really valued. So there are much more incentive to think that such life is really important. Second of all, however, so they are really engaged in this organization. So also such this incentive is really important. So because this is fundamental part of this parents' life. So given these things, opening government says the parents really force children to not give them the medical treatment, those kinds of things. However, not all parents force it to the children and make such decision. So some the religious parents, after such comparison, such make a decision. So in conclusion here, first of all, so simply it is not for the choices and not so simplistic so based on such simplistic thought. And second of all, such decision or such act is really independent to the leader, so their leaders have no responsibility to care about that. Third of all, why such feasibility is very low or even successful case might be harmful counterproductive to students. Third thing, first of all, simply believers, especially head of religious organizations, there is no incentive to follow the such government what the state said, because such the thought is very fundamental one, or the literally in the Bible, or their core part of their life, or they are so they are leaders of religious organization, so they cannot easily to change their thought or against what the God said or what the written in Bible, those kinds. So okay, so second of all, and they start to think they feel antipathy toward the state, so they have less incentive to follow what the government says. Because they start to feel if government start to push aside legal liability, they start to feel the government should start to intervene, start to attack us or attack ourselves or attack our important sort of important religious organizations, those kinds of things. So like minimize the government, those kinds of things. So what the government team, what they say they have no incentive to follow that or they really care about the government state say those kinds of things. So given to things, their feasibility is very low. Third of all, even if opening up a successful cases, even some believers to give a medical treatment, however, why long term is rather counterproductive. So simply, the children more harmful situation because, for example, in the case of the blood transfusion cases, if successful cases, however, children will forever regarded as they are children injected the corrupted blood or contaminated blood or those kinds of things, because such a transfusion or injected another people's blood is really against the Bible or against the fundamental thing. So this is the children, if this are really regarded as a bad or go against the God or those kinds of things. Why is bad today? Firstly, simply such situation cannot opt out the children by themselves, right? Because they cannot change their blood or they cannot by themselves, so they have to live forever as long as they live. Second of all, please think the surrounding environment, so family believe such a religion or surrounding people are acquainted in religion such a environment. So given in those circumstances, such the behaving act go against the thought is really bad. So this is their counterproductive and principle, but given this we are happy to oppose.
Leader of Opposition, next we call upon Deputy Prime Minister to extend ODA case within 7 minutes. Here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, because we think that this situation is different from those kind of like to believe, because the people who get harmed by those kind of things is children. They are not they don't have the legitimacy to believe those kind of religion, right? Because they happen to go in those kind of the Christian conservative area. So we don't think that they should have the duty to follow those kind of things, right? So we think. And also we think, because by after plan, we think that in the first place, the doctrine, those kind of doctrine will be changed, right? So we just think that those kind of harm that they're going to present doesn't stand. And we also think that because even if those kind of readers didn't directly harm those kind of people, we think that there are some cases that we have to accuse those kind of people. So we are more than happy to propose. So today I have two things to say. So first thing is about after plan, because my partner couldn't explain those kind of things, so I will add that. And secondly is in the principle level. In what occasion we can punish people who didn't actually harm others directly. But before that, let me just give 3 levels. So first thing is that they said that not forced choice. Really? Because we think that it is almost forced choice that as my partner explained, right? Because they in this social structure, that if they go against those kind of religious things, they might be discriminated from those kind of religion or those kind of things. So we think that it is almost forced choice. And because we think that those kind of people who does those kind of things is really conservative people, right? Because we think that those kind of people is really living in those kind of conservative area. They are really near to those kind of area, right? So we think that those kind of bosses is directly affecting those kind of people. So we think that like not forced choices doesn't stand. We think that is rather forced choices. And secondly, they get the example abortion. But it's really different, right? Because the first thing, seriousness is different. Because in the abortion, like, oh, there may be children dying, but like because we think that the person who get abortion not die, right? Because of that, we think that those kind of seriousness is different from what we are talking in the first place. And also because like they're forcing children, right? Like in our cases, like they're forcing children that don't have the legitimacy to believe those kind of religion, right? But in those cases of abortion, because we think that those kind of people who get abortion is those kind of adults who believe in those kind of like religious things, so that the case is completely different. And thirdly, about like that government and religion shouldn't be the same thing. But because we think in the status quo, yeah, maybe we have to adapt those kind of variety of ideas. But because in those kind of group, to stay in those kind of society, we think that they should cooperate to live together. Right? They should cooperate to not to harm other people. But we think, but because of those kind of doctrine, it is harming those kind of children who are unlikely born in those kind of conservative areas, who are unlikely didn't get those kind of medical treatment that they need. So we don't think that those kind of like religion is different from the government. It doesn't stand. So moving on to our first segment. So about that, no. So we think that two things happen. So first is the less parents who will do those kind of like who will refuse those kind of like medical treatment, because we think that they don't want their bosses to be accused, right? So we don't think that those kind of cases of children not getting those kind of medical thing won't happen that much. And secondly, because we think the doctrine will change in the first place, right? Because they don't want to get accused, right? Because if they get accused, there will be less number of believers, and those kind of like accountability of that religious thing itself will be decreased, right? So we don't think that those kind of, because those kind of religious things want those kind of many believers to believe those kinds of things. We don't think they want those kind of things to happen. We think that they change the doctrine. And what is good about it? Because we think that if the doctrine has changed, they don't have to suffer from contradicting their doctrine, right? Because doctrine doesn't say those kind of things anymore. And secondly, because we think that long-term discrimination, that the opening opposition, like gay birth, doesn't stand either, right? Because there's no doctrine that says you shouldn't like get blood transfusion or something like that. So we think that in the after plan, which is more better. Oh yeah, yes.
So why, in your paradigm, such doctrine has suddenly disappeared?
Because as I said, they don't want to get accused, right? Because in this kind of situation, they have the likelihood that they will get accused. And because once they get accused, their accountability or their liability will decrease, and they don't want those kind of things to happen. So we think that they will, not maybe suddenly, but they will gradually decrease, right? And so, lastly, about the principle argument. So in one occasion, we can punish people who didn't actually harm other people directly. So, like in these cases, why we can like punish leaders who didn't actually kill those kind of children, right? Because we think that those kind of, when we think about the criminal justice system, we think that there's one thing we have to think about, that instigation thing, that Kyosan intervention, right? So, because we think that if those kind of people committed a crime, but if those kind of like, if those kind of crime was done because someone told him to do it, we think that no, people who told him to do it has the responsibility. Because especially when those kind of perpetrator has no choice but to do it, as I said it, as my partner said in my argument, and it's in irrational situation that they cannot think of that. Because they really fear of getting discriminated from the society, they cannot choose those kind of like saving their children, right? Because we think that in such situation, we should ask responsibility for those kind of perpetrators, right? Because in fact, we don't punish those kind of people who did those kind of crime because of their mental illness. We reduce some punishment, or sometimes we don't punish them in the first place. Right? So we think that because they're in a situation where they're irrational and where they have no choice but to do it, we think you shouldn't punish those kind of parents. But rather, because we think that we should punish those kind of people who instigate it, right? Because those kind of people knows that there will be harms, right? And they still like told those kind of other people to do those kind of things, right? Because we think that should be done. Like in fact, like in the Momiji Cup, the out thing, like because that Asahara Shoko, I don't think he directly killed anyone, right? But because he made many believers to like believe in those kind of like out thing, and because they made those kind of believers to commit those kind of crime, and because those kind of believers was in so irrational situation, we think that it is legitimate to punish those kind of people. For those reasons, we are more than happy to propose.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister. Next, we call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition to extend O's case within 7 minutes. Here.
Since this policy doesn't make any changes and doesn't make any deterrence toward the religious organization, and rather the children, if their policy can be succeeded, children are getting huge mental damage, and children are forced to live in such severe situation, and parents no longer love their children, and religious organizations have no longer loved their children. So that's why in that situation, rather we say that children can get huge mental damage, and children are. That's why we try to oppose this motion. Today I have 4 things to talk about. Firstly, I simply rebutted the opening comment, and secondly, I explain how our counterfactual looks like, and thirdly, I explain how the freedom of expression is freedom of religion is important, and fourthly, lastly, I explain why the freedom of religion override to other choices. So firstly, simply rebutted the opening argument. So firstly, simply their assertion is not true, right? So they said about, so because the religious leader change that change that doctrine, so that is benefit. But it is not true, right? So simply the religious leader don't feel any shame to live in a jail. So because they protect their religious beliefs, and they proud of the protection of religious beliefs. So in that circumstances, rather the religious organization itself are proud of the protection of the religious beliefs, and rather have an incentive to maintain the religious beliefs. So in that circumstances, their religious organizations unite. It's more rather strict, and so the huge enforcement toward each religious believers. And secondly, we say, so there's no change, right? So because after taking this done, parents will anyway choose religious beliefs as the Prime Minister told you. So that's why in that circumstances, parents start not change their mind, and because so what kind of context we are talking about is parents who deeply opt in such religion, for example, Jehovah's Witness. So that's why the parents will never change that idea. So that's why the children are still forced to be died. And thirdly, so even if they can succeed, there's a timeline problem, right? So if the religious leader go to jail, so after children die, the children's life cannot be saved, right? So in that circumstance, because there is a timeline problem, their plan cannot be succeeded. And secondly, how our counterfactual looks like. So because so even our Prime Minister, our leader of opposition clearly told you, even if they can successfully transport their blood, that is harmful, rather harmful for children. So because two things. Firstly, because the religious organization itself demonize their children, right? So because the religious organization think that the children are completely contaminated with blood, etc. So that's why completely that children are completely segregated by the religious organization. And secondly, also parents have no incentive to love their children, right? So as the Prime Minister's character, according to the Prime Minister's character, so because the parents prioritize their children, their religious beliefs rather than children, right? So that's why the parents, because after the surgeries can be succeed, the parents want to choose the religious belief and don't choose their children, right? So in that circumstances, parents give no love to their children. So, but the parent, these children cannot opt out by their will, but still forced to live in that religious organization. So because that. Simply, in that we have to talking about the family that deeply opt in to the religious beliefs, and they never knows that other world. So simply because they cannot, they don't have choices to opt out. So that's why their children have no cannot have ability to opt out. And secondly, so because the children cannot be forced to behave inside of the religious community as long as they live. So that's why that harm can be perpetuated. So that's why they are forced to live in the severe condition as long as they live. And these families itself are also threatened by the religious organization. So that's why that harm is very severe. Yes, please.
So when they're a child, maybe it is difficult to opt out. But if they get those kind of surgery, and if they are able to get
yes.
like those kinds of things, do you think they can?
We think that these family itself are deeply opt into the religious beliefs. So that's why the family forced to behave as religious believers, and they prohibited to behave as ordinary citizens. So in that circumstances, these children, if they're going to be bring it to the adult, they have no choices to opt out. And supposedly, how our culture looks like is simply if the children, children have a possibility to live, right? So that's why in that circumstances, because the children have maintain clear body in a few percent, children have clear body. That is very benefit for the other children. And even if children die, so at least the family itself can be secure, right? So that parents are not demonized by the religious organization and can sustain their living. So that is a benefit in our side. And how in the principally why the choices is not prioritized, right? So because the die is not alternative for these religious organizations, right? So because there are some religious believers eager to die because of the religious faith, right? So that's why that in that because government allowed to die for the religion and government allowed to respect the religious idea. So in that circumstances, government should not the religious organization because the parents know the children's benefit, so that choices, so government cannot force their choices. So that's why we proud to oppose.
Thank you, Deputy Leader of Opposition. Next, we call upon Member of Government to open the closing comments today within 7 minutes. You're here.
So in opening set, they are talking about what is better for the children or family who are in the such a religious community. But actually, why we can decide some death is better than some living with some mental harm, or such a living with mental harm is better than death. So actually, it is impossible for us as a government to decide which is better for thinking of the individuals. Therefore, what we have to talk about in this debate is as a government, what we have to insist for the society. So as a society, we have, as a government, we have to stand as a position that we should not neglect some people who threat to death, or children who threat to death, and we have to save them for the society, because it is important for the social norm or changing society that connects that make much student choice or happier choice. Therefore, we should, I will talk about the things that as a government, what do we have to do. So, or rebuttal is included in my speech. So first, I talk about so as a government, what we should do. So actually, it is impossible. As I told you, it is impossible for us to focus on the what which is better for the individuals. And about this point, so in the status quo, because of that, religion have a doctrine, or religion have a religious feeling, they can neglect such children, they can neglect such children who are setting to death. But as but in the case of the non-religious case, actually citizens have a duty to save people who are drowning in the water and who are threatening to death because they cannot swim in the water also. Therefore, like that, actually because to maximize their happiness or their choices. So in this status quo, the problem is that because of religious reason, they can decide that they can do such immoral things or in other social in the society. So what is harmful by this point? So firstly, the harm. So because by allowing such action, as a government, we cannot accuse as a radical action as a religion. So in the actually, just because of religious reason, they can do immoral things in their school. Actually, therefore, government rules if government don't accuse them, actually government don't have a power to stop such a religion action. No, thank you. So that means that sometimes there's some jihad or something like a terrorism, like even such a radical action, sometimes encourage suicide also. Such a radical action can be legitimated just because of religious reason. So therefore, because government will lose the way to fight with such a immoral action or such a harmful society, we should not stand. We should not allow them. And secondly, it's a harmful society. Yes.
So if such doctrine is really harmful in common sense, why the government don't prohibit such religious organization?
So as an individual, actually, we have to maximize the feeling of such a happiness. So therefore, we maximize what they want to believe also. But because if it is connects to the social harm in the social harm, because such a people who making harm is such a leader of the religion, doctrine of religion, we will stand the state position that we will fight is such an immoral situation. So and secondly, some so the harmful society. So if we when we lose the way to fight with such an immoral situation, actually it connects to the social norms. The social norms that we should not kill people, or we have to save people in front of us, or like that. So actually, if it connects to the society, actually as a government, what we have to focus on the best is the society. We should not allow them. So that means that such religious feeling will be the trigger to change the social norm, or trigger to the giving harm for the society. So next year I talk about why today's threatening for the neglecting child is a harm or a morality part. So as a principal level. So actually in the case of the children, children don't have a consensus for the to be killed or to be raped. Yeah. So and moreover, because even if they have a consensus, actually sometimes they are brainwashed or they have less information in the society because they don't have a living so long time. So but at this point. Actually, principally, what we have to do is giving children to the chance to getting up to the level, and go to the stage that they can make a choice by themselves. So that as a principle, maximize them to the chance to have a choice is important. Therefore, if we neglect them and killing children, that is, they will lose a chance to getting chance to choose whether they want to live or death, or sometimes they want to believe religion or not. So therefore, in this time, because they don't have any chance but to live, but to death, we have to cure them. And moreover, after that, actually they will have a chance to getting much more rational choices, because children have a flexible feeling, or they have like a sponge. They can get information from surroundings. Therefore, after they cure, actually they can connect with the society, or society that is not same as their close community. So therefore, they can get a chance to increase in their way, chance to choose the chance to seek maximum happiness. Therefore, principally, we have to do is that firstly, saving such people who have no choice but to death. So therefore, as a government, we have to do is keeping such principle, because it affects the social harm. And so next year I talk about why it is important, the opening side. So actually opening side talk about so big thing, because we cannot completely, it is impossible to decide which is better, to keeping death or maximum happiness for children or maximum happiness for parents also. Therefore, but as a government, what we have to focus on to the best is the society. So because it connects to the society's heart, or as a government, if we allow such a religious action, it is impossible for us to fight with other radical action or radical feelings. We should not do so. That we have to accuse. Thank you.
Thank you, Member of Government. Nextly, calling upon Member of Opposition to open CEO's case within 7 minutes. Here.
From the opening half and another crossing government is that why the head of religion have to be accusing for the criminal liability. We think that is to say why the head of religion has the all responsibility to say. Even though regardless of the consequence, whether the society is going to be good or whether religion will change in the first bit, but without that kind of head of religion do not have any responsibility, we don't accuse that kind of person. Because the criminal liable, whether we have to accuse the criminal liable or not, is decided whole of the life of religious person. So that's why we have to care about that kind of decision. So that's why without justification, we don't accuse that kind of person. So that's why we want to talk about in terms of the criminal justice system, why that kind of head of religion do not have the responsibility. That is a unique contribution to the closing opposition. So before moving on to an argument, two things to talk to you. First of all, why there are the cases that the head of religion that do not relate to the action which refuse to medical treatment. And second of all, even so that's why we're talking about they don't mention about the cases. We cut down the cases every kind of the decision based on the forced choices. That kind of premise we want to cut down. And second cases we want to talk about is that even if we are talking about the opening government's best case scenario and forced choices happen, why that kind of action to refuse to accept transfusion in and of itself is not so criminal in the first place. So we'll begin tonight. Before we get to each individual report towards opening government and closing government. First of all, to our opening government, the reason why they are accused of criminal libel is based on assumption of what the Prime Minister said, is that because of spread the doctrine, that's why they have the response, the head of religion has the responsibility. But we say that even though that's the member of member of religion, they tend to spread that kind of doctrine in the first place. For example, if your neighbor is a Christian, they Jehovah's Witnesses, you recruit other person, that kind of person also responsibility because that person is spread the doctrine in the first place. On this circumstances, they never mention about why the head of religion has a responsibility even if they spread the doctrine in the first place. And second of all, we say that even the head of religion, they don't make that kind of doctrine in the first place, and they, because of their ancestors, believe and their position is good, that's why they succeed that kind of position, and they're gonna be the head of religion. That's why on that occasion, if it puts the whole responsibility to all the head of religion, it's really bad. It's not. They don't have the responsibility. That's why they never mention about why we can justify to put the responsibility to the whole religion being in the first place. But next, revert to the closing government. And so they talk about it's important to government to not keeping the social law and to prevent immorality. But immoral is not the criteria to be with a personal criminal responsibility. Instead, for example, it's a tattoo, sometimes immoral because if you feel, sometimes the homeless people, they tend to difficult to take a bus. That's why sometimes they are dirty in this semester. On that circumstance, that is immoral. But that doesn't mean we can justify the criminal justice, criminal liability in the first place. That's why immoral is not the criteria. So that's why, which means that kind of liberty is really important because the whole assumption of the opening government, the closing government, does not justify to pursue this criminal liability to the religion. That's why we see that point is really important. First of all, talk about why there are these things that the head of religion does not negate it, and why on that occasion we cannot pursue responsibility in the first place. You say opening opposition have to talk about that kind of choice is up to individual, but as we say, we don't see the agitation or the forced choices in a way that does not happen. There are the cases that kind of action does not happen in the cases. For example, other people, even though the head of religion do not say that kind of thing, but other people say that kind of thing, the head of religion has to take responsibility. That kind of thing cannot be justifiable. We say that, for example, there are so many persons in this hierarchy of it's a Christian or something. It's that even though there's a Pope or that kind of head of religion saying nothing, but other the middle class of person command you have to follow that kind of doctrine. Even though that kind of situation, taking the responsibility of the head of religion is not seen because even though that kind of agitation or forced choice happen, we don't judge it. That kind of decisions come from the head of religion. That's why we say that is immoral. Yes.
So maybe the other people is. So maybe the other people is expanding those kind of doctrine. But who is the most people who can uniquely change those kind of doctrine? Who
even though we can see that the head of religion can change the situation, but they don't have responsibility, we don't put the criminal liable in the first place. That's why point out people I understand. And second of all, we have, even though agitation does not happen, but individual misunderstand the situation already happened in the first place. There are 1,000 people. If I as a Muslim and I refuse to provide the medical care to the children, like the Muslim, Pope Muslim, I don't know where for example, Arabic is where to live, but that kind of Pope, or I don't know before, but that kind of person has to tend to the criminal liable. We don't think those kind of person in a way that do not have responsibility because whether committing that kind of religion or not is up to the individual. There are some people who only lead to that doctrine and they understand it by themselves. That kind of Muslims say that kind of thing, and that's why they follow that kind of thing. So that's why they refuse to conduct the medical treatment to their children. On that circumstances, we don't say, especially because the contextualization about religion, we don't see that kind of Pope. Only Pope do not have responsibility. So that's why that kind of argument is really important because we already talked to you to how just because the leader does not mean that they have the responsibility, and why that point is important because if we push the criminal liable, we decided every kind of the whole life of individual. We after the life, for example, where to live or what they want to eat, and after we love that kind of situation, and they have to have the criminal record forever. On those circumstances, without that kind of absolutely and clear as responsibility. We don't push the responsibility to head of religion. So that's why that is really important. We have to care about whether we push to criminalize this. Second of all, last of all, talk about, and also we say, lastly we say, denying the medical treatment does not actively kill the person, because the reason why the children want to start fusion is that they make a car accident, or they make the car accident or something. Or just like matters, we don't actively kill that kind of children. So on that occasion, even though their children life is important, as long as actively kill the children, we don't think that even though agitation happens, we don't judge that kind of person have to criminalize. So that's why we as a government closing opposition we are really proud to stand.
Member of opposition, next we call upon Gov Whip to defend CJ's case within 7 minutes. Hear.
Thank you, Chairperson. Your opening she has mainly talked about which is important, right to live or freedom of religious. Yes, it is tangible that right of live is the more fundamental right because without life they cannot believe in any religion for the first hand. However, it is also true that some people they want to prioritize religious life to just having life. We cannot totally deny the chance of the remaining discrimination for the child. So it means that we cannot determine which provide real happiness for every person, because it is really belongs to each person's idea. Then my partner pointed out the role of the government of one nation. Once the government justified deserting its citizens under life-threatening condition, the fact that the government allows some the fact itself spoils the social norm of the nation. It is the government's duty to save people save the citizens when the life is threatened, under that kind of trust,
So your principle, save citizens, is completely contingent upon the practical consequences that whether children or cannot access to that surgery. Please explain why your argument is still important without any logic support the practical.
Sorry, it is the principal level opinion, but it is a very important point because citizens can no longer trust government, which can do nothing when its citizen is going to die, and the practical harm that the strong believer of certain kind of religious is likely to get easier to have the surgery is smaller than the harm we have. The completing the duty of the government is the fundamental of one citizen, and especially in this case, the victim is children. As my partner clearly explained, in many cases, children are innocent and can have no consensus. So it is important to give chance to. So we should the children should have more chance to decide the way of living, and they shouldn't have intervened by parents or others. So for these reasons, it is very natural for government to brave someone for denying for give children for have children denied giving medical treatment, in terms of thinking about considering the influence of the religious, what the government have to bring is the head of the religious organization. Yes, as all sides said, it is difficult to change their mind. They are not likely to follow the government idea. But it doesn't matter whether it is successful or not. It is more just braving is more important than the result. So for this reason, we will have to propose.
Thank you, Gov Whip. Lastly, calling upon Opposition Whip to close the debate within 7 minutes. Hear, hear.
In the entire debate, the question of whether we can hold the head responsible, and only the head responsible, was very vaguely answered. And we think there was a real parallel between the sides, especially in the opening. It was my partner that brought to you the definite comparative essence as to why we cannot draw the line between the parents and the head. And even if you can draw the line, how the head should not be upheld to that burden of having a criminal record just because a doctrine that he represents might have affected an individual choice of another. Now, within my speech, I'm going to mainly talk about two issues. First of all, can we hold the head criminally reliable? And then second of all, I'm going to compare the after plans on both of the houses. So first of all, can we hold the head criminally liable? So we heard from opening government the idea that the head is solely responsible because he's the one that spreads the doctrine and also the one that can change the doctrine. To this we heard from opening opposition that parents can make a responsible choice by comparing their religious belief and their love for their child. We never really saw an engagement from either side towards the other. We had to question then three ideas coming from opening government on why they draw the line between the parents and the head. What we heard, the explanation we heard from opening government is the idea that parents are forced. So like people with mental illnesses, they are irrational and they cannot make a choice themselves. Three questions there. First of all, like my partner already told you, members also spread the doctrine to find follow members. They also try to indoctrinate or try to influence their child or their family. We don't think that that's a line to draw there. But then more importantly though, we have to think about the idea that head is also someone like a parent. They were also within the social construct, someone who became a follower, maybe because their parents also follow the Jehovah's Witnesses. The head might as a child become a Jehovah's Witness. We don't think necessarily, if you draw the line between whether you were socially enforced into believing that idea, parents and heads alike are going to fit into that criteria. So that line is very vague to start with from opening opposition. But then last but most importantly, the idea that the head can uniquely change the doctrine. We rather said that head can uniquely not change doctrine because as the head, their sole responsibility within their organization is to uphold the doctrine, is to be a role model for all the other followers. In that sense, his hands are tied. The moment he tries to change the doctrine, he is either forced out of the organization, replaced as head, or he faces severe criticism from his followers, and his followers try to reverse the doctrine back to what it originally was, because especially coming from the entire government bench, these are very conservative people who are very unwilling to change their doctrine or to change their belief even for the love or the life of their child. We think it's very unlikely that the responsibility of changing the doctrine can be solely placed onto the head. But then even if it can be placed onto the head, right, then no one except for my partner critically answered why this acting can answer to the criminal justice system and not, say, the civil court, right? That line to draw there is whether you've been actively harming someone. My partner already explained to you the idea that if you stab someone, you are criminally liable. If you deny treatment, that's not criminally liable. For example, if I, as a parent, from economical issues or from if I'm a single parent and I'm working and I cannot provide chemotherapy to my child, and if I'm banned from those kind of societal situations, I am not criminally liable for not being able to provide maybe the most efficient treatment to my child, because that's not necessarily something from me actively harming my kid. I might try to still give them painkillers to make sure that they can at least feel a bit better and provide some alternative treatment. So for that reason, we say that they are definitely not criminally liable, at least even if they are responsible to a certain extent. Because criminal justice system impacts a certain individual's life to a major extent, not only do they hold a criminal record, that means that their families are also affected by their judgmental views from fellow citizens. They are also restricted in terms of what kind of jobs they can have, what kind of places they can go to. We think that this kind of burden cannot be placed solely onto the head. We cannot hold them criminally liable. But then moving on to the issue of the after ban. Will the doctrine actually change, right? So we heard from opening government the idea that because of reputation, they're going to really care. Either parents will care or not, and will give blood transfusions, or the head will really care and they'll try to change the doctrine. To this, we heard from opening opposition the question about, the head will be really proud of that doctrine, so they wouldn't really try to change it, and followers is also very proud. We see one kind of analysis missing from opening opposition, in the sense that we have to understand, if someone is prosecuted, the next person in line who is a follower becomes the next head. We think it's very likely that this person will not only reverse the doctrine, but rather more or less try to frame the person who is prosecuted as an outlaw because they try to go against the nature of their holy Bible. These kind of doctrines have been around for ages for some of the religions. It's not necessarily the head who created that kind of doctrine to begin with. It's not necessarily the head's power to be able to change the doctrine by his own opinion. We say that that kind of change is very unlikely to happen. Even if doctrine changes, followers are not likely to follow into that kind of change because coming from them, they are a very tight-knit community, very conservative. Even if they, on surface level, pretend that the doctrine has changed and that the head is not responsible anymore, they can still internally try to believe that looking at blood is very bad, so as a Jehovah's Witness, I should not do blood transfusions for my child. We think that's rather more dangerous because then you have a much more controversial issue on as to who can you put the responsibility or the accountability, right? But then lastly, from closing government, the unique extension they give with the ideal society and how immorality might be triggered within society. My partner already told you about how even if something's immoral, the government does not step in. Tattoos, these do not step in, even though some might think that it's immoral, because the line you draw for immorality is arbitrary, and it should be placed upon each individual citizen, and the government cannot make that decision for the citizens. But then moreover, we have to think about how these conservative religious groups are a very rare minority. If they have such power to affect the entire society, why not ban the religion to begin with, right? Because to start with, we don't think that it's very likely for these people to be able to trigger such huge societal change, especially coming from the idea that a lot of people do believe in things like blood transfusions or medical treatment to begin with.